This episode is brought to you by Trolley. Actually, it really hasn't. I don't know if that's like a corporate thing we can get in trouble about.
Sorry,
these.
Party people. All them people. All them people. This is the Gameday Podcast. I'm Lawrence Price, the host of the Gameday Podcast. I'm here with the boys, a trio pod, Mr. AC, Mr. Jockey. Appreciate you boys for joining me. I was nervous, low-key, AC. I was like, I hope it's not just me and Jake, because I've been on a two-person pod, and this is sometimes difficult. But we would have held it down.
We would have cooked.
We would have held it down. So clearly, it's us three here for the pod this week. Apologies for no pod the last few weeks. It's been hectic. Editing has been hectic. Okay. Possibly week 2. We'll maybe just throw it in somewhere down the line. Week 2 with David and Brad. That might come out sooner or later. I don't know. Because you were on the pod. I was just saying.
Of course.
But we're back. We are back. So
you're so back.
Bro, that saying, kills me. But we're going to break down Northwestern's last game against Howard. Then they had the bye week, so now we're getting back from the bye week. Talk about our thoughts with the team bye week, and then also going to their game against Nebraska this Saturday. Loki forgot that they were facing Nebraska. It's been a long Monday, man. So let's break it down. Homecoming game, Northwestern versus Howard. They beat Howard 23-20, improved to 3-3 on the season, but it was tough. It was tough. The first half looked like it was all in Northwestern's favor, but Howard made a very strong push in the second half. I keep looking at Jake, thinking Jake's going to talk about Howard, but both of us were not on the game. Mr. AC was on the game. Can you talk us through? We saw Ayesha's piece on Northwestern's struggles against the run game, but can you talk about kind of that second half that had everybody a little shaky in their boots?
Yeah, for sure. I do want to first say that the first half wasn't all too convincing. They scored on their opening drive, pretty convincing 6 plays, 75 yards, straight down the field, what you would kind of expect a Power 5 team to do against an FCS opponent. And then obviously Xander Mueller in that defense forced a safety, and so Northwestern's looking at a 9-0 lead through 6 minutes of football. And then from there, the offense kind of stalled a little bit. I think Mike Bajakian's unit went, 19 plays, 25 yards over the next 4 drives. I don't know, granted now it's been a week
not complimentary football.
But, not complimentary football. But granted,
not a full 4 quarters?
Also not a full 4 quarters. Granted, this was only happening the first half, but I digress. But yeah, I got to see Hunter Renner 4 consecutive drives, so, I won. The special teamers won. And then Northwestern bookended the half. Sullivan and Co. marched down the field, 14 plays, 77 yards to the house to get 6. Went into the half with the 16-0 lead. Kind of, it was comfortable. It wasn't convincing, but they looked like it was in the bag. Howard comes out of halftime, touchdown. Okay, 16-7. Northwestern rebounds, touchdown. So, you're looking at a 23-7 lead, and then turnover on downs, a punt. I mean, it's just the offense stalled. Howard, Eden James just absolutely tore up the Northwestern backfield. I want to say, and I'm not lying when I say this, I want to say Howard's SIDs, they were behind us, and they were talking about what Eden James' career long was on the drive that he recorded the 64-yard score. They were talking about what his career long might be, and then he busts through the hole for 64 yards straight to the house, and they went, that's it. So
to the crib.
And then they had another rushing score where they cut it to the 3-point lead. But Northwestern kind of ran it down. They ran out the clock. And I don't want to say they escaped, but they got a win. It wasn't comfortable, but they did what had to be done. I know Twitter was a little, even after, not even like immediately post game, but especially after Saturday's 48-7 result with Harvard trouncing Howard.
The mighty Crimson.
The mighty Crimson. So, it was an interesting game. For sure not a perfect game. It was a good first half of football. Xander Mueller played well. He had 2 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss. So, the linebackers once again showing their ability, but again, that second half, the run defense, it just continues to kind of plague this team.
Yeah, and Coach Braun talked about, or he was asked about Xander Mueller's play and accountability that he's taking on, and it's amazing to see the growth that Mueller's made since his sophomore year. Honestly, I mean, I remember writing a feature on Xander last year because he really stepped into the starting role next to Bryce, but he was more so a special teams guy his freshman and sophomore year. And now seeing him come into his own and just leading the team in tackles for loss, sacks, really up there with Bryce Gallagher and stepping into his own. So that's huge. But yeah, again, Eden James, 21 carries, 177 yards. The dude was a problem. And like you were saying, that's very nerve-wracking when they get routed by Harvard, which is also not supposed to be a very good team, 48-7. And Northwestern's only able to win by 3. And of course, a win is a win, like the meme goes. A win is a win, but that is very troublesome thinking when you got to go into a tough environment like Nebraska this week and only Big Ten schedule for the rest of the season. But hopefully the bye was enough for them. But let me ask you all. I mean, the football players were on a bye week, but how was your bye week?
How are you, Jake?
I mean, it's midterm season at Northwestern, so is it really a bye week for us? That remains to be seen.
No sleep.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice. I didn't have to write any articles last week, so we got to relax. And I will say this on Harvard. Like, they are one of the top FCS schools in the country, so you got to give them their plaudits. And, yeah, they're 5-0. They're ranked. I believe, like, they were 17 or 18 when they played against Howard. And Howard is coming off of a game where, I mean, you're being tested to your physical limits playing against Power 5. I mean, one of the lesser Power 5 schools, but a Power 5 school at that. And, I mean, Quentin Williams, their quarterback, got shaken up a few times. Like, they went through the ringer. And coming off of that high-energy game, it's a homecoming game for Northwestern. You're coming in trying to spoil it. They were due for a letdown against Harvard, and that's exactly what ensued.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see. But I got to ask you guys, we did a midseason roundtable. It's available on the Daily Northwestern's website if you want to go check it out. But just got the staff's thoughts at the midway point. For you all, did you expect them to be 3-3 come at this point?
No, absolutely not. Feel free to check out the article, but I think all 6 of us kind of attested to the same thing, that like I was probably more optimistic than most. I think I projected like a 4-8, 2-7 conference record, and that I said in my blurb, but like that it could be week 9 in like 2-3 weeks, and they could very well be at the 5-1 mark. So, no, like I don't want to say I was pessimistic, but you just think about everything that happened in the off season.
Right.
You already had questions about the offensive play calling from Bajakian. The defensive tackling has been something that's plagued them for several seasons, and then like you insert a guy who was never coached it down of Power 5 football, and so I don't know. I didn't expect it, and like I guess I'll eat my words. Like if this team makes a bowl game, but,
same here, and I'll be at the bowl game.
So yeah, I for sure did not expect to be 3-3.
I agree, and yeah, you just got to tip your cap to this team because if we're being honest, the only people that believed in this team was the team to get to this point. I mean, for me, I expected the UTEP win. I expected the Howard win, more Howard than UTEP, but for them to get that Minnesota win was huge. And now there is a chance they could come out victorious in the Big Ten West. Knock on wood. It's going to be very difficult to do that, but it starts with Nebraska. And also, you got Maryland, very good Maryland team this year. Iowa lost their quarterback, K. McNamara.
Defense, though. Defense
yeah,
is legit.
that's going to be very tough.
Mordecai's hurt for Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin. Then you got Purdue, which is kind of having an off season a little bit. And Illinois is kind of just in the midst of things. So there's a lot of opportunity for Northwestern, but there is a chance Northwestern does not win a game here on out. At the same time, it's their futures in the palm of their hands. So it's going to be very interesting. I did even just want to ask you all, is there a point of emphasis that you feel like they've done very well up to this point, or an area of concern? I think you were talking about just the play calling with offense, and I definitely said for me the one concern is the offensive line, just how they're going to be able to hold up against comparable Big Ten West competition. We've already seen, we don't know what's going to happen with Ben Bryant, if he's going to be ready for this Saturday, as Coach Braun was talking about. Right now, I feel like the mentality is that Brendan Sullivan's going to go. But I think it's really up to that offensive line. The trenches, man. The trenches. I talked about it again at Rutgers, and it's still a huge proponent now. So is there any good, bad for you all, would you say?
I mean, something that I would like to point out they've done well is they've avoided complacency. And I think that comes from them being a team that's gone through a lot of adversity, especially with some of their stars this year. Look at Bryce Kurtz, look at Ben Bryant. These are two guys who have gone through season-ending injuries. They've gone through nagging injuries throughout their college careers. Now they finally have the time to really shine in the spotlight, and they're taking full advantage of their opportunities when they may come. Now, it's easy to avoid complacency when you're down 21 points against Minnesota, but it's harder when you're playing a Group of 5 school where you're projected to win, playing an FCS school where you're projected to win. And we've seen in previous years where they've played these teams, they've rolled into Ryan Field, and put it quite frankly, we've laid an egg. And this year
Southern Illinois.
But the problem is, with a tough stretch for the rest of the year, there may not be another win. And with that, they have to find that internal motivation to keep moving and keep pushing forward. And if they do end up becoming complacent, resting on their laurels with their 3 wins thus far, that could spell some major trouble for this team.
And I agree. I think I had to ask Coach Braun about closing out games because he talked about it after Howard. And that's going to be key in Big Ten West games going forward, where most likely each game is going to be pretty much a touchdown or 2 decided by, which is going to be very important. And I did ask him about that, and he, expressed just the need to, just like fine-tuning things and understanding from his mindset of what they need to do when they're ahead or when it's close. Did you want to add anything to that?
I think just especially this week, facing a Nebraska defense that is top 5 in the country in rushing yards allowed, I think they allow it's right at 75 yards per game to opponents. I just think Braun has really emphasized getting the ground game going, and I know he's kind of talked about how the team has kind of had to play from behind a little bit, which has prompted Bryant to kind of have to air out the ball a little bit more than they might want, but they rushed the ball upward more than 40 times against Howard, which I think maybe was kind of indicative of what you want a Power 5 school to do against an FCS school, but also just kind of where they want the offense to be. And so establishing Cam Porter on Saturday is going to be huge because, again, if Bryant's out, you want to kind of free up some space for Sully to scramble, get him on the ground game as well. So we'll see. I mean, Hyman's also gotten touches. Tyus has gotten touches. So those 3 really just have to kind of try to enforce their will against a Nebraska front that really hasn't allowed anyone to.
Yeah, and I mean, Northwestern has struggled run game wise this entire season. I mean, Cam Porter, he had 78 yards. I'm pretty sure 18 carries. Don't at me on that in the game against Howard, but he has not reached that 100-yard mark yet this season. And if you look back at Jake's story on Cam, he talked about that's not a mindset going into the game, but you do look for that if you're a viewer to see his dominance. But I feel like, Alex, your answer was a great transition into Nebraska, and Nebraska 3-3 on the season, 1-2 in conference play. Pretty sure that's the same as Northwestern, same exact record, both teams, but Nebraska has a 69% chance to win compared to Northwestern. I think a lot of that has to do with Northwestern's I would say their how they played against high-level competition. But also, I think Nebraska's at home, and that is a tough stadium. Memorial Stadium is a tough place to be at. That is their NFL game for the week up there. I have been. Any really thoughts? I mean, AC, you talked about the run game and how dominant that is for Nebraska, and that's really going to be the test. And the law of the land comes Saturday. Yeah. So.
They're also, I wanted to note, like, that stadium's going to be rocking. They're celebrating their 100-year anniversary.
Oh my
that
God.
night, that day. So they're donning new uniforms. It's a whole thing. Yeah,
and I will say, like, when I went last time, when Northwestern lost 56-7, not a fun trip, might I add. I had fun with the guys that were on the trip, but when Nebraska scores their first touchdown, they let red balloons go. Definitely still have videos in my phone, but it was just an amazing experience. It was pretty much like a later, and it might have been a night game. I'm pretty sure it was a night game, but that was a great experience. But yeah, proceed.
No, I was gonna say, listen, the caveat. Let me introduce the caveat that Northwestern is not Michigan. So the fact that Michigan ran for 250 some odd yards against Nebraska, that's a different expectation.
Blake Corum is
respectfully. We don't have Blake Corum.
Donovan
Northwestern
Edwards.
does not have Blake Corum or Donovan Edwards. So
it's unfortunate.
Yeah, would make things
life easier.
But yeah, I mean, Heinrich Harburg's entering his. I'll let Jake talk a little bit about this more. But Heinrich Harburg's going to start his, I want to say, 5th game under center for Nebraska. But Rule was pretty adamant at his press conference that Jeff Sims is available if called upon. So maybe that throws a different complexity into Braun's preparation, but. It'll be an interesting battle because neither of these teams boast like elite offenses by any stretch.
Yeah, I mean, we got Heinrich Harburg coming in here, 6'5", 215. So basically, Riley Leonard light, if you might put it. I think Alex said that prior to.
I did not say that.
Oh, that was me.
Lawrence.
Yeah.
I did not say that.
Apologies.
0.5, Riley Leonard.
Local kid, grew up 130 miles away from Memorial Stadium, so nice 2-hour drive if traffic cooperates. But we're really seeing this kid come into his own, and he's a real threat on the ground. And you've seen how Northwestern's been against quarterbacks who can kind of extend the pocket a little bit. Now the key is
I'm gonna find that stat.
You got to force this guy to throw. Our secondary's been pretty solid for some parts of the season.
Real solid.
I mean, got to shout out Coco Azuma, Devin Turner, among others. But I mean, this guy, he's a big body quarterback, and if he imposes his will downfield, it could cause us a bevy of problems. So stopping him is going to be key.
Yeah, and just going back to the QB, I mean, I compared Riley Leonard and the two because they're both 6'5", both pretty much the same build, and they both lead their teams, or I don't know if Riley Leonard still leads his team in rushing because he's out right now, but Nebraska's QB leads their team in rushing. I think he has over 400 352 yards on the ground, 69 carries, 3 touchdowns. It's going to be very much Northwestern, I would say, is lucky that they faced a quarterback similar to that, so they understand maybe what that scheme's going to look like, or that could help with the preparation. But like you were saying, Jake, they're going to have to force Harburg to air it out, throw the ball. But that's going to be tough. I know Richie Haggerty is coming off an injury who will be crucial on the defensive line. And a defensive line that's looked good at times hasn't looked so good at times, which we saw against Howard in the second half. And, I mean, when we go back to it, I mean, Northwestern against rushing ranks last in yards per game allowed. They've given up 172.3 yards per game on the ground, which is very, very troublesome when you're facing the offense that has the second most rushing yards in 200 per contest. So I think this is just going to be a battle of ground game, and for Northwestern is going to need to assert their dominance here. Do you guys have any other thoughts with the game or anything like that? Yeah.
Just hope it's not 56-7.
Oh gosh. Well, for the game, it's going to be Mr. Jocke traveling.
Yes.
Mr. Double A is going to be traveling, and also the GOAT, Anjali is going to be taking snapshots for the game as well. So they'll be heading out most likely Friday, I would say. They will be driving. Prayers to them. Hopefully it's a great drive.
Double A at the wheel. He's got it.
Oh, man. That's better than our trip to Minnesota, possibly. It could be.
Shout out John Riker.
Yeah. That was a fun trip. That was a fun trip, though. But yeah, there's not really. I know we didn't really talk about our predictions for the game. But do you guys? What are there any other keys you feel like to Northwestern win? Do you see Northwestern winning this game? That look right there says no. That was a no.
Yeah. I'm not optimistic heading into Lincoln right now. Maybe a few days down the road I'll lighten up a little, but I've seen us struggle against big rushing quarterbacks. I've seen us struggle against very solid defenses, and Nebraska combines both of those. So I think it's going to be very tough for us to win this game. Of course, if B. Sully does take the starting quarterback job this week with Ben Bryant possibly out, I think that could spell trouble, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Coach Braun talked about AJ Henning should be ready to go, but they just don't know about Ben Bryant, and that's a huge question. And it's going to be very interesting. I don't know if I can't remember if Sully played in the game against Nebraska last time around. I remember Solinsky, and Solinsky had a day. So maybe you'll see him get a little play out there, but it's gonna be a tough one for Northwestern, especially going into that 80,000 plus fan environment. That's gonna be very hectic. They have not faced that the whole entire season, nor has Braun in I believe his coaching career. Right? I don't think he faced that at in the years prior. So it's going to be very interesting. But, any last thoughts for the boys? We kind of wrapped this up pretty quick. Wow.
I do quite frankly think that in the Big Ten West last year, Northwestern walking in to Memorial on their 100-year anniversary and winning like a horrendous 16-13 game would just be the Big Ten West personified.
I agree.
So I don't think that's out of the cards at all, quite frankly, especially with essentially two backup quarterbacks going at it. Although Herbert has started the last few.
But boy, oh boy, if Northwestern wins this game and they come home and play Maryland on Halloween weekend, whew.
It's gonna go crazy.
Whew. That's something serious. But Mr. Jocke, do you have any other thoughts?
Closing thoughts. I look forward to Saturday covering the game with Double A by my side and Anjali working her magic with the camera.
Okay. All right. Mr. AC, I thought you were gonna. Where was your pink hat? Now to think about it.
I left it in my apartment. Apologies to the viewers. I forgot my prop. I wanted to be taken seriously this week.
I respect
closing thoughts. This episode has been brought to you by Trolley. Actually, it really hasn't. I don't know if that's a corporate thing we can get in trouble of.
Sorry, Stacia.
These are great. These very berry sour bite crawlers. I'm pretty sure I have a cavity now.
Those are pretty good.
Yeah, they're really good. This is a good candy.
Where'd you get them from?
Highly recommend. CVS. They were 2 for $5. Great deal. Shout out my mom for the CVS card. Love you. I'm sure she's watching. Actually, I know she watches.
Really?
Yeah, she brought up something you said.
Was it bad?
No. It was about the what did you say? You said something that was super in the first episode. That was something about it was just a very old timey saying. You were not like Jiminy Crickets, but something like that.
Oh. Yeah. I think I did some Drake stuff where people would be like, golly G or something.
But anyway, basketball season starts November 6th. That's frankly all I care about. Northwestern was ranked 40th in Ken Palm, 2 spots lower than I was last year. The adjusted offensive efficiency went up 37 marks. So, go Cats. Brooks Barnheiser's making an all Big Ten team.
Hey, book it. I agree. Stop rising. But yeah, I think that's really it. I didn't really say. It's gonna be an interesting game. I'm gonna give Nebraska the edge just because that environment is something serious, and I'm a little nervous myself. But peace, love, and prosperity to the good people. This was a great pod. But yeah, hope y'all tune in for the next episode. But we'll be back again. Peace, love, and prosperity. That's the go-to saying. Peace.